Hello, trendsetters. Dr. Lena Rodriguez, all the way from Australia, for another week. After that, I'm off on the trip, so I hope you're all packing. We're off to Greece and Spain. I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, so I've been thinking, there's so much going on. Intrepid viewers, thank you for your questions. So what I thought I'd do today is I'll just chat about the news for a minute, and then I'm going to do a big Celtic cross on what are we doing and where are we going generally with everything, right? Because I think it's time for a biggie. But first, no, I'm not going to comment on the Will Smith, Chris Rock episode, much as I'd love to. But no, leave that right alone. So also this GOP that chooses to live in the dark ages. There's some guy from Indiana, Mike Braun, who's obviously right into banning interracial marriage. Like, they live in the 50s and they live in a particularly deluded version of the 50s. It's the happy days version of the 50s, not real life, So he thinks it should be a state issue. So in other words, if you're in Indiana, he'll put in a law. What the? They just shouldn't be allowed out. Dreadful creatures. And then the ever reliable Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you're ever up for the most nonsensical award of the week, you never can go past her, can you? She's always got a new one. Well, this week, it was outrage, viewers. They're asking us to have multiple vaccines. I've never heard of multiple vaccines. See, this is just an illustration of how they're controlling us with these multiple vaccines. Well, I don't know about America, but in Australia, babies have triple antigen vaccines for diphtheria and measles or whatever it is. And it's called triple because there's 3 of them. They have them at 6 weeks, 12 weeks, and 12 months. It's all a blur to me now. I used to know. Right? These are not normally things that people question. If it needs 3, it needs 3. Older people and people with compromised health have their annual flu vaccine. So how does she come up with this stuff? Which bears out what I say, viewers, which is there needs to be a stupid tax introduced. And I tell you truly, really, you could fund the schools and hospitals of the nation if you just implemented the stupid tax. And start with MTG. And where did they get off? So, yeah. Thanks to the viewer who said, watching Ketanji Brown being interviewed by the GOP for her SCOTUS nomination. The viewer said it was like Einstein being interviewed by Porky Pig, Mr. Magoo, and the Three Stooges. I think that sums it up. Really, that's what it was like, only appalling. Now, the Ginny Thomas stuff is getting legs. So Thomas will have to either, with any more pressure, he'll have to either recuse himself from all the January 6 things, or better still, resign, call it a health issue and just go away. He's always been inept. He's always been a lecherous right-wing turkey. Just go away, please. Okay, so other news, LA has announced it's a sister city to Kiev. Oh, bless, go LA. It's a symbolic gesture. Awful as things are there, I do believe strongly there are top-level negotiators behind the scenes trying to get Putin or his replacement to the table. So let's have a quick look there. Is Putin still in power? Let's ask that. I'm not convinced he is. Let's see if Putin's still in power. Putin. What's happening for Putin? Come on down. Oh, okay. This is normally my GOP card, 10 of Cups, because it's the card of performing happiness. So I don't think he's actually performing happiness. It's probably a bad metaphor or something. But he is performing in the sense of saying, it's all right, I'm still in charge. Look, I'm still in the big office, or something like that. So at this stage, I think the ones around him are pretending. They're letting him go ahead for a little while longer, but he is so out in the cold. The world is not impressed with this. Now, the world is keeping a very tight rein on what is happening around parties talking to him. I have to say, normally Biden is my King of Cups. Here's the Queen of Cups. I don't know that it was the best thing to say Putin can't stay on, because all these heavyweight countries are trying to get him to step back himself. It's out. Don't worry about it, Joe, because things do fall out of his mouth along with everyone else's and something, but it did raise a spectre in Europe. Europe freaked out about that comment that it shouldn't be in power because it's code for regime change, which is code for we'll go in and change it, which is code for World War III. So we've got to remember always that Europe is much more invested in the immediate outcome of the Ukraine than Australia is, or even the US, right? Because it's right there. So that's why they freaked out with that comment, but it did go out there. Underneath, I think this is Putin's reading. Underneath, I think that comment, which is why I just raved like I did, actually got to him. Here's a funny thing. It had the opposite reaction. I think it meant that Putin immediately went around and shored up his immediate bodyguards, and think it did freak him out, but he had to be reassured he was still the star of the show. Right. Now, personally, I think that is a very limited time frame. One of the people who's been suggested to replace him, Alexander Bornikov, he's currently head of security. Of course, Sergei's been missing for more than 2 weeks, so he's part of those who are either under house arrest or whatever. This is an FSB guy, would not be good for Russia, would not be good for the world. I mean, it's easy to say anything would be better than Putin right now, and that could be true if they do change the leadership from within. Presumably part of that is backing off in the Ukraine, but it's not a guarantee. So, you know, we're far from out of the woods yet. Now, in other good news, this Dominion court case, for me, in my head, as a humble tarot reader from Australia, it has taken the forefront about the Dominion voting machines. We were all heavily looking forward to the New York Manhattan's office stepping in and stepping up. And now that that has been seemingly aborted, I'll have a look at that in a moment, this Dominion case, because what it is people like Sidney Powell, who had to defend herself to the Dominion charges, they have to admit they lied. And Sidney Powell, as the lawyer said, only a fool would believe what I said. You know, it was obviously lies. Why would anyone believe it? This is their defense. So they're saying they're lying. And now there's a new one from Fox, Michelle Malkin, who has to defend herself. And she came out and she admitted that she didn't do any fact checking. She just went on national television and said the election's been stolen. So this Dominion court case is turning out to be very big. One by one, everyone who bought into this has to go to court and admit they lied. So there we have it. Right, so let's have a look. Is there any chance Letitia James, as the Attorney General of New York, can anything be done to resurrect this Manhattan District Attorney's case? Bragg has been returning witness statements and evidence. This is not good. It is not good. It's so not good. How many ways can I say this is not good? Okay, but we're all at law school. So let's see. Because a lot of it has already gone ahead to the grand jury and other sources. Can it be pulled out of the fire? The Manhattan DA Trump Org case. Can it be rescued? Oh, God. Oh, the magician. There's tiny room for optimism. Here we go, troops. The magician. Now, boom, powerful card, major arcana card. Manifestation, power, transformation, but for good or evil, right? So just the magician turning up doesn't actually solve our question. You could say it was a magic act to get Bragg to agree, and he probably didn't cost much. YouTube, entertainment purposes only. A few mil here and there probably secured his services, question mark. Allegedly, allegedly. Now, so this card comes out first and foremost, but because of the rest of the reading, I'm reading it as the possibility that it can be in a positive way, because although it is a burden and it's very burdensome to have to rework the material they've got and all of that, the Fool is a brand new day, followed by the gifted speaker, the compelling orator, followed by the King of Wands, who's an impartial legal figure. So it might be possible that someone, another court case, I can feel another court case coming about the court case. Oh, God, are we over all this or what? You know, but there could be a court case to challenge Bragg. No use waiting for the New York governor's things, because although the governors in the race have both said apparently they would get rid of Alvin Bragg, that's not till November. No, not good enough, not good enough. But with this figure here and a brand new day, it could be someone sues somebody to take it forward another notch. So I wouldn't rule it out yet. Okay, but in the meantime, keep on top of the Dominion voting machine scandal. All right, now, okay, I'm going to do, I drew up a new Celtic cross, because people talk about the Celtic cross, but there are dozens. So for this, I want to look at how we are all coping, but what are the lessons for us with Ukraine? I mean, what an inspiration have the people of Ukraine been to all of us. What a total inspiration. This is what fighting for democracy can look like. When we've been in safe countries since the Second World War, we've forgotten, take it for granted. In the case of Australians, it's like, oh, well, got to take the kids out for the sausage sizzle and vote. It's just like ho-hum. America, half the population didn't bother voting for 40 years. At least more people are starting to vote. But taking it for granted, that's the point, taking it for granted. So this is very big for Europe, for the world, for all of us. So I'm going to throw it out there. How should we be looking at this? How should we be handling it? So it's broad and open-ended. Okay, let's look. Let's look. Have a look here. So we've got the main issue. Didn't expect that so early on. All right. This is the journey. Hopes and fears. Running out of room. I'll just give you a quick squiz, but then how will I do this? You can see how high tech I am. I'm going to give you a look at it and then I'll talk you through it. Okay. All right. Such a high tech program. All right, we're kicking off with the first cards, the heart of the matter. Now, this is the 10 of Pentacles. Is the center of it money? Yes and no. What else is going on with the 10 of Pentacles? Legacy, intergenerational legacy. It's exactly what I was just talking about. We inherited a democracy that we just assumed would always be there, taking it for granted. Pentacles are also about our values. So do we value democracy, or are we just going to sleep at the wheel, right? So it's got much more going on there. However, as I said, Pentacles are about money as well. And what's the challenge? Evening out the wealth disparities all over the world, and America leads the world yet again in the greatest disparity of wealth in the world, the biggest gap between rich and poor. And so this is about redistribution of wealth. Because if you allow only uber rich people, and I'm talking uber rich, I'm not talking people who have worked hard at their businesses and have got a nice lifestyle. I'm talking billionaires plus who have enormous power, excuse me, who then exploit that power through lobbying in order to pull down pristine forests and to frack away and do all those things that destroy the planet. That is the challenge that is facing us all now. Okay. Now, the underlying situation, the Three of Swords. We're heartbroken. We're heartbroken on lots of levels, and our hearts feel pierced by these swords. There is no doubt. And that only happens, though, if you have compassion. So for many of those ruling the world, they have no compassion, right? You know, this is part of the problem. Unless you have compassion and empathy for others, you cannot have a just society. You don't have to have every literal person being all warm and fuzzy, but you do have to have a political and social commitment to social justice and a commitment to the idea, why is homelessness growing at such a fast rate? Why are older women the fastest growing group of homeless? Why are people with jobs homeless? I could go on, but you get the point, right? So when that happens, when your heart's constricted or sad, you're not at your mental and spiritual best. So it's important to understand that this is going on, but how to work with it and around it so you come from a stronger, clearer space. Okay, in the past, we had the Hierophant. This comes back to that very first card of intergenerational ideas around money and society and what works. And these were the conventions that people trusted. They trusted the church until we got the exposure about the millions of children who were abused. We're not talking about a rogue priest in Boston and another one in Kilkenny. No, we're talking millions of children systematically abused. That didn't help the cause of the mainstream churches, you have to say. But generically, as societies, we trusted government, organised religion. Now, law and order is always a vexed interest, because if you ask white people, most white people, and I'm talking about sociological studies here, will say, yes, law and order, the police, you know, they only arrest bad people and so on. This is part of the myth too, that only bad people go to jail. And that's why people are opposed to prison reform, because they believe in their deep brain only bad people go to jail. No, some bad people go to jail, lots don't, but also if you haven't got a lawyer, the chances of you going to jail are hugely higher. And if you are not white, they are exponentially higher. So if you ask people of colour what they think about law and order, you're going to get a very different answer. But here it is in the position underlying society. So what's the energy over the issue? People are freaked out about money, and not without reason, you know. So there's tension around money, and there's lots of videos out there that encourage you to try and find an independent path of following what you love and trying to earn money that way, than being strapped to the wheel in a job you hate. Now, not everyone has a lot of choice around this. I fully get that. At the same time, most people are concerned about money. This also represents to me student loan debt. I've done over 1,000 readings now. I did the calculations the other day. I can't believe that, 1,000 personal readings for people. And I can't get over how many people, the last thing they go to bed at night thinking is about their debt. And these are people who are living with this tension, this dreadful, dreadful tension. And because you can't get out from under, it's a legal thing. You can't take out a loan because you've got this debt. It's outrageous. It's outrageous. No other country in the world does it like this. I'll just point that out, which is why America needs to do a lot more looking out, right? Because there are infinitely better ways to do most things, including health and including student loans. Australian student loans do not incur interest. I'm just saying. Okay. So this is people worried about money, but also worried about their values. So regardless of what side of the fence you're on, so if you're in a GOP heartland and you're convinced that something like the issue around young trans or gay marriage has ruined your universe, it's a really sad space to be in, because it's a fear-filled space. And then people like us, the light workers in the world, are fearful because we feel we're outnumbered by the power. And something to remember, particularly in the American context, no, you're not outnumbered, actually. These flat earthers are not the majority of Americans. They are, in fact, around 30 to 40%, which is way too high, but they're not the majority. So it's really important to take heart and to hold firm on your values. That is really, really important. Now, the journey we're on, where are we at? The answer is working cooperatively. Now, I would say that Tara Whimsy has done fantastic videos on this for 2 years, if not more, about how to form small collectives, to buy as a collective. So you save money individually by buying things in bulk or starting very small resourced centres, whether it's around recycling or offering complementary therapies, or regardless of what it's about. We've got to learn to work together. And if you work with like-minded people, you get more confident and less traumatized by what's going on in the outside. Because why do you think these GOPites hang together in their echo chambers? Because instead of being scared themselves, they know they can switch on whoever's replaced Rush Limbaugh. Sorry, it was tasteless. And no, they can switch on Fox, they can switch on whoever, and they know they'll get fed this hatred, which is at least an emotion, so therefore I'm alive. It's very sad, but very true. So it's up to us as light workers to find each other. And COVID has been a blessing in disguise in so many ways, and one of them is, you know what, we can all be keyboard warriors, and you can align yourself with a progressive organisation and offer your skills to them. Doesn't have to be a lot of time, could be 2 hours a month, could be 2 hours a week. But when you're actually doing something, you feel better. And you're meeting people who care. And you meet other people who are doing things. And that spins off. And then you start to think in a more optimistic way, in a broader way. You think, well, maybe I could organise that in my town, that we could do this, this, or this, right? Because local's where it's at. The global and the local, the global and the local. Okay. All right. This position, hopes and fears. The Knight of Pentacles. So the hope is that things will financially be all right in my world, in my house. This is very localized too, but hoping that it will steady itself. On the other side, the fears, the fear of the mercenaries, because there are those who will be out to get anybody if someone else pays them. It's just like Tucker Carlson, that's Tucker with an F. Someone paid him lots of money. Did he need the money? No. So that makes him a mercenary, right? Because it would appear, just went for the other side. So this is a very conflicted card in this position here, right? So the hopes and fears that things will steady in time. We've got to be patient, and we're not very good at that. No, not good. And we're used to things whipping around, and God knows they seem to, you know, like if you miss a day's news, it's like 87 major things have happened. So the positive Taurian energy of the Pentacles, earth yourself, is my advice. And there'll be more advice in a minute. Earth yourself, earth values. The external influences, what's banging you around the chops each day? This, because it's hard to find the good news, you know, and we talk about this a lot. So people are carrying a lot of anxiety. So it's really, really important. The next card is the advice card. Moving on from this state of anxiety, because this person cannot help themselves or anyone else. They're too distraught, they're too highly strung, they're too deeply upset by, understandably, because there's so much outrage and horror out there that people are feeling it. But you need a way out from that feeling. And for me, it's two things. It's earth, but also action. Knights are action. So steady action. So do a little something. You might be into animals, and you can volunteer to answer the phones at an animal shelter a day a month or whatever. Anything helps the good cause. Now, outcomes interesting. Four of Swords. Wait and see. Wait and see. See, this is slow and steady. This is wait and see. The point is not to get head up, and particularly not last thing at night. Let me come back to that. As a compassionate human being, of course, you're going to be upset and outraged and feel powerless in the face of these dreadful things. That is a given. Okay. But the good news is you can feel it and you do get it and you understand you have a role to play, even if you don't understand what it is. So last thing at night, do not go to bed tossing and turning and fretting. Just the last 10 minutes, just put on some Archangel Gabriel music to go to sleep to, some Gregorian chants, particularly if you've been brought up Catholic. Love a Gregorian chant. So, it's really important last thing at night to calm down and think about the bigger picture, the whole history of humanity and the whole potential and wonder of what it can be. So, outcome is personal reflection and work. It's time. If you've had the same meditations since 1976, you go, oh, I learned this wonderful Buddhist mantra back in the day or whatever. It's time to freshen up. And I'm talking to myself at the same time. It's easy to get into a routine, even a spiritual routine. So think of new ways to freshen up your spiritual practice, your hotline to the universe, your conduit to light and love. That might mean refreshing your altar if you've got an altar. Have you had the same altar for 10 years? Have you not got an altar and perhaps need one? Now, don't forget, altars don't have to be elaborate things. They can just be a coffee table that you pick up at a car boot sale and just put it in a little corner quietly. You can pull it out easily, put it away. If you haven't got an altar, get an altar. If you've got an altar, when was the last time you really stripped it down, cleaned everything and put everything back? I'm sure some of you do, because I see you in my videos and they've got gorgeous looking altars with shiny crystals. But I'm talking to us mere mortals who get a bit slack, right? So it's time to reinvigorate our own soul selves and be confident we've got each other. So things to think about, okay? All right, take care, guys. Love you. Bye.